Did Vaughn really tell you that Melly told him that he was two friends?
He ain't come out and say, like, we got into an argument. And so, you know, if you know, when people could say something without saying it.
The judge just made a major move. Melly's lawyer, Drew Findling, has officially been given the green light to file paperwork pushing for Melly's release from jail. This comes after Melly has been locked up under extremely tight, restrictive conditions for way too long, and now his legal team is stepping in hard to change that.
And so he told me, like, once I posted what I posted, Vaughn was mad at me. Bro, why you put up there, bro? Walter Bam. I'm like, you sitting up here, like, you know the love we got. You do this for us, but you gonna trust that his two friends? And he said, was trying to extort him. And so I'm like, if they was trying to extort him, then why are you still around them?
Drew Findling didn't hold back either. He made it clear in writing that they're ready to fight aggressively for Melly's freedom, saying they want him out so he can properly prepare his defense for what's coming next. He pointed out that the state has now backed off some of the claims they were pushing before, which could seriously shift how this whole situation plays out. Now here's where things take a sharp turn. The prosecutors suddenly dropped the witness tampering charge against Melly. That means he's no longer facing trial for that part of the case, even though everything was originally set to kick off on Wednesday, January 21st. But it didn't just happen out of nowhere. During a hearing on January 20th, prosecutors made the call to drop that charge completely. And the reason behind it? Reports say new evidence came up that changed how they viewed the alleged motive connected to the case involving Sack Chaser and Juvie, adding a whole new layer to the situation. After new details surfaced, things started looking even more intense. Prosecutors are now pointing to fresh evidence suggesting that Sack Chaser had been acting in a strange way toward Melly weeks before everything went down, and they're trying to use that to build a new motive tied to the case, with claims that someone close to the YNW circle backed this up during a police interrogation.
Melly still turned regardless of what happened this early morning. He's still out here being very positive. Turned still. Hey! The dog still turned, regardless of what happened. You already know.
According to that affiliate, Sack Chaser was allegedly doing things that made Melly uncomfortable, and it reportedly pushed tensions to a breaking point, with talk of wanting serious payback. That statement alone has people raising eyebrows, especially since it's coming from inside the group. Then it gets even deeper. There are claims from a former associate that Melly once reached out to King Von for advice on how to handle a situation involving someone he had issues with. That detail has added even more speculation around what was really going on behind the scenes. But here's the bigger twist. While all of this is unfolding, Melly is also going after the system directly. He has filed a lawsuit against the Broward Sheriff's Office, accusing them of harsh and unfair treatment, and he's pushing hard for immediate release from custody. Melly even claims he hasn't been allowed to speak to family for years, which has sparked reactions online, with some rappers saying, "I like what I'm hearing. Shout out that boy Melly, man. Free him. He's been locked up way too long." That's the energy coming from supporters right now, especially as Melly's team paints a rough picture of what life has been like behind those walls. They claim he's been dealing with harsh conditions, barely edible food, almost no real human interaction, and a cell that stays freezing cold. Things got even more emotional when Melly's mother spoke out in an interview, making it clear she's deeply worried about him. She said it's painful knowing he can't even call her regularly because he isn't being allowed proper access to the phone, which only makes the situation feel even heavier.
There was this kind of crazy way that Melly was communicating. He wasn't allowed to use the phone, but he was passing notes to people, and then this person's calling this person and then that person.
Saying like to me, they going through extreme measures, trying to cover up or convince people not to testify, like Mariah mom. They was using code words like Rihanna and A$AP Rocky's baby mom. And
when asked how she's handling all of this, she didn't hold back. She said she feels completely helpless and heartbroken over everything her son is going through. That kind of statement really hit people hard and pushed the story further into the spotlight. But not everyone is showing sympathy. Charleston White stirred things up by saying, "Melly deserves a bad jail life." And that comment instantly sparked strong reactions across social media. But not everyone is coming at this cold. Rapper Boozy showed real sympathy for Melly's mother, pointing out how much pressure and stress she's been carrying through all of this. That reaction stood out, especially with so many mixed opinions flying around. At the same time, Melly's legal team isn't slowing down at all. His lawyer, Drew, is pushing a whole new angle, arguing in court that the prosecution doesn't seem ready to fully follow through. using their own actions to make that point. One example he highlighted was how Mariah was once lined up as a key witness tied to the witness tampering claim, but then that entire charge suddenly got dropped. And here's where it gets even more complicated. Authorities reportedly waited until Melly's girlfriend, Mariah, returned to the United States before moving in and arresting her in connection to that same situation. Looking back, when Melly's trial kicked off in 2023, Mariah had already been on law enforcement's radar after missing a court appearance. Officers tried reaching her multiple times and even showed up at her place, but she couldn't be located anywhere. Now that the witness tampering charge is off the table, reports suggest she may still play a role as a witness connected to the main case, keeping her right in the middle of everything.
Can you state your name, your full legal name for the jury?
Phillips.
And are you related to one of the victims in this case?
Yes, I am.
How so?
I'm his mother.
And who is
Christopher Thomas.
Ms. Phillips, did you see who entered into the occupants who entered into that gray Jeep?
Yes.
Do you recognize where your son entered that gray Jeep?
Yes.
Which seat, if you can identify for the jury?
Even with everything going on, Melly's mother couldn't hide her relief after that charge got dropped. She went public saying, "God is good and he hears your prayers," showing just how much that moment meant to her. And she wasn't the only one reacting. 50 Cent even chimed in saying, "Drew Findling is a bad man beating all these cases," which only added more attention to the situation. But behind that celebration, there's a much deeper strategy playing out. Reports suggest the prosecutors didn't just drop the witness tampering charge for no reason. They're trying to stay locked in on the main case and avoid messing up key evidence they believe is crucial. According to those reports, the decision was made to prevent any issues with jail call evidence that could be important in proving their argument in the upcoming trial.
He got in the back seat on the right-hand side.
Did you recognize the individual that got into the back seat on the left side, the rear driver's side?
Yes.
And who was that individual?
Janelle.
The state is said to be playing it careful, especially since questions around whether those calls can be used in court still haven't been fully settled, which could affect how things unfold later on. At the center of it all, prosecutors had originally tied the witness tampering claim to allegations involving Mariah Hamilton, pointing to financial records that reportedly show she received over $31,000 from Melly's management company, along with other forms of support connected to purchases, keeping her name right in the spotlight. There's even more that's been brought up. Reports mention a Mercedes tied to Mariah despite no clear record of steady income, which raised questions as investigators kept digging. On top of that, authorities pointed to jail calls, surveillance clips, and even inmate notes that they claim show Melly setting up a message system through other inmates after losing phone privileges. According to those claims, names like James Howard and Terrence Mathis came up as people allegedly passing messages along, with instructions reportedly being shared through recorded calls and coded language. There were even mentions of communication involving co-defendant Borland, with accusations that certain messages were meant to keep Mariah from showing up in court. This situation had already been talked about before too. YNW Juvie's father even spoke on similar claims during an interview a couple of years ago, which brought even more eyes to the case. Still, some see this as a calculated move by prosecutors. Instead of relying on the witness tampering charge, where Mariah would have been the main voice, they now appear to be focusing on using her testimony in the main case instead, which could carry more weight. And it doesn't stop there. When you add in Bland's expected testimony and the fact that Borland accepted a plea deal, things start to look more serious. Borland reportedly agreed to cooperate and entered a no-contest plea, with a sentence tied to being an accessory after the fact, including prison time followed by probation.
So the first thing is I didn't have a firearm, so I can't know which firearm I'm going to use in order to replicate any of my tests. So I can't make tests for this determination because I don't know what was used.
Okay.
With reports saying both Mariah and Borland have made agreements, it leaves Melly standing alone in court, which could shape how everything unfolds next. Part of that deal comes with serious pressure. Borland can't just accept the plea quietly. He has to give a full factual account of what happened. That means laying out a clear story, explaining his role as an accessory, which indirectly confirms that the crime itself took place. The same crime Melly is facing charges for. It's not just a simple agreement either. It's more like what people saw in other high-profile cases, where the person has to speak in detail. Like it was said, he can't just say, yes, and move on. He has to really explain everything step by step, making his version of events clear. The comparison being made is that this situation works in a similar way, where the focus is on telling the story, rather than directly naming names. In simple terms, Borland is expected to describe what happened from his point of view, even if he avoids directly mentioning Melly. And if that explanation lines up with the claim that the incident involving Sackchaser and Juvie happened inside the vehicle, it could strongly impact how the case is decided moving forward. Now, both sides are going head-to-head, each pushing strong arguments about whether Melly should be released or not.
I'm aware that 927-1 call for an automatic stay while
They were aggravators. They go to membership, and again, there are things that the jury would have to find before going into penalty.
Not aggravator, that's the
Right.
aggravator, that's the gang. He was charged in committing the murder for the further of the gang, which is an aggravator in terms of the guilt.
something that they would have to find by way of
Yes.
The judge stepped in and allowed both sides to present their evidence, setting the stage for a major decision that could go either way. So the big question is, what would you decide after hearing all of this? Prosecutors came in heavy, pointing to text messages they claim show Melly admitting to involvement, putting that front and center in their argument. And that's not all. They also brought up surveillance footage showing Melly in a parking lot with Borland just hours after the incident, appearing calm and even dancing, which they argue shows no visible reaction to what had just happened. But there's another detail that adds even more tension. Earlier footage reportedly captured Melly about 30 minutes before everything unfolded, leaving a studio and getting into the back left seat of a Jeep, a moment that's now being closely examined as part of the timeline. That detail matters a lot because official documents reportedly describe the direction of the shots as moving from left to right inside the vehicle, which lines up with the claim they came from the back left seat, the same spot Melly was said to be sitting in. Even Juvie's mother backed that up, confirming he was positioned in that area, adding more weight to the timeline being discussed. But Melly's legal team didn't let that slide. They pushed back hard in court. They reminded the judge that during the original trial, prosecutors admitted no firearm was ever recovered, which raises serious questions about the strength of that argument. And they didn't stop there. His lawyers also pointed to evidence reportedly found inside Bland's home, using it to challenge the prosecution's version of events and shift attention in a different direction. Melly's co-defendant, YNW Borland, also ended up back in serious trouble after being booked into a Miami jail late Monday night. Reports say he's being held on an out-of-county warrant tied to Broward County, and the charge at the center of it all is witness tampering. According to documents obtained by Law and Crime Network, the warrant outlines a timeline stretching from April 10, 2023 all the way through July 22, 2023. During that period, Cortland Henry, also known as Borland, along with others, allegedly took part in misleading actions aimed at another person with the goal of influencing them to hold back testimony. The paperwork goes even further, stating that the alleged witness had already been officially called through the legal process to appear in the trial of Jamel Demons, known as YNW Melly, which makes the situation even more serious. And those dates aren't random at all. They line up directly with key moments in the case. Jury selection for Melly's trial began in mid-April, and everything came to a halt on July 22nd when a judge declared a mistrial. What really stands out is that July 22nd is also the exact same day the warrant claims Borland was involved in witness tampering, creating a timeline that prosecutors are clearly focusing on as they build their case. Reports also revealed images of alleged notes found during a raid on Bland's home, and what's inside them raised serious questions. The pages reportedly include drawings showing where jurors were seated, along with another sheet that appeared to describe what they looked like, which led to speculation about possible attempts to interfere with the jury process. Now that Borland is cooperating, it changes the situation in a big way. He's expected to answer detailed questions about what happened that night, giving investigators more insight than they had before. But there are still gaps in the story that haven't been fully explained. One major question people keep asking is why Fredo Bang showed up to pick Melly up afterward, a detail that continues to spark curiosity. And it may get even more serious. Authorities are reportedly looking to add an aggravating factor to the charges, which could increase the potential sentence if those claims are accepted, raising the stakes even higher. Photos of Melly hanging out with Young Thug started making rounds, with some people claiming the image ties him to a specific group, adding even more controversy to the situation. What really caught attention, though, was how Melly reacted in court. Reports say he told his lawyers to stop fighting certain evidence and just let prosecutors use it, believing that Borland could end up confirming it anyway. That moment turned intense fast. Sources say this was the first time Melly openly went against his own legal team during a hearing, and it all played out right there in front of everyone. Witnesses inside the courtroom even claimed Melly was yelling, saying, "I don't care. "I'm not in no gang. They can't prove that," which made the whole situation even more dramatic. With tensions rising and new details coming out, this case just keeps getting deeper by the day. If you've been following this closely, make sure to like, subscribe, share, and drop your thoughts in the comments. What do you think really happened here?